You open your banking app, and for once, you don't flinch. No little spike of dread, no quick math about whether the grocery run means ramen for the rest of the week. You just look at the number, close the app, and get on with your day. There's a specific point where that switch flips, and it's lower than you think. It's not $1 million. It's not even six figures. Most money channels will tell you there's some enormous number you have to hit before you're allowed to feel okay. They're wrong. The real line, the one where the whole game quietly changes underneath you, sits at $20,000. I'm Ben. I spend an unreasonable amount of time thinking about why money makes people act the way they do. Why some people seem to drift into wealth almost by accident, while others run on a treadmill for 30 years and end up exactly where they started. And the more I look, the more it comes back to this one number. So let me show you what actually happens when you cross it. Here's the thing nobody explains. Wealth doesn't build in a straight line. It builds in steps. And there are these invisible thresholds where, once you're over them, the rules change. 20 grand is the first big one. It's the wall between the people who slowly pull away and build something, and the people who spend their whole lives one bad month from disaster. Think about pushing a stalled car. The first few feet are brutal. Legs shaking, barely rolling, you're wondering if it's even possible. But once it's moving, really moving, you're basically jogging behind it. Same car, same you. The only thing that changed is momentum. 20,000 is the moment your money starts rolling on its own. But, and this is the part the spreadsheet people miss, the first thing that changes isn't your balance, it's your head. When you've got nothing saved, your brain runs in survival mode. Every choice gets filtered through fear. You take the bad job because you can't afford to wait for a good one. You stay somewhere you hate because leaving feels like jumping off a cliff. You say yes to things you'd rather set on fire because you need the money this month. That's not you being weak. That's your brain doing its job. When the house is on fire, it will not let you sit down and plan a vacation. It can't. Every bit of bandwidth you've got is going to the flames. And here's how little it takes to put the fire out. Vanguard surveyed more than 12,000 people, and the single strongest predictor of how good they felt about their money wasn't income. It wasn't assets. It was having $2,000 in savings. 2 grand gave a bigger lift than earning $500,000 a year, bigger than $1 million in the bank. A $500,000 salary moved the needle less than a $2,000 cushion. Sit with that. The buffer beat the $500,000. So 20,000, which for most people is 3 to 6 months of expenses, isn't just a pile of cash. It's the difference between a brain bracing for impact and a brain that finally has room to think one move ahead. Now the fun part, the math. Say you're putting away $1,000 a month at about 8%. Nothing clever, a boring index fund. Your first 20 grand takes around 19 months, a year and a half of saying no, of watching the account crawl. This is exactly where most people quit, by the way. They stare at a number that's barely moving and decide the whole thing is pointless. Your second 20 grand? Doesn't take 19 months. Takes about 17. Same effort, same $1,000 a month, same risk. You just shaved off 2 months, because that first 20,000 is in the game now too, throwing off its own returns while you sleep. And it only snowballs. By the time your portfolio hits 400 grand, you mint your next 20,000 in about 5 months, barely lifting a finger. The same chunk that took you nearly 2 years to grind out is now showing up 3 times a year on its own. The trick under all of this is almost embarrassing. A 10% gain on $2,000 is $200. Nice. Buys a dinner. A 10% gain on $20,000 is $2,000. Somebody's whole month of rent. Out of thin air. Same percentage, same fund. The only thing that changed is the size of the base. That's the secret rich people supposedly guard. It's just a bigger number getting multiplied. But honestly, the money is the smaller half of what you got. Because to save 20,000 from zero, unless you're pulling stupid money or living rent-free in your parents' basement, you had to become a different person. You tracked where it all went. You said no, over and over, for months. You sat on your hands while everyone around you. You upgraded their phones, and their cars, and their weekends. And somewhere in there, you proved something. That you can run your money instead of your money running you. That you can wait for something. That's not a finance skill. That's a life skill. And you just earned it the hard way. Which is why, on the far side of 20 grand, the $4 coffee stops being a moral crisis. You're not sweating the small stuff anymore, because you already proved you can win the big stuff. And weirdly, your whole attention flips. Broke. You agonize over generic cereal versus name brand. You stand at the pump doing math. But the gap between brewing coffee at home and buying it is maybe $1,000 a year, tops. Real money, but not the thing deciding your future. The big stuff is where you live, what you drive, how much you actually put into the market. Those swing your net worth by tens of thousands, so you stop white-knuckling the bananas and point all that mental energy at the 3 or 4 decisions that move the needle. It's a strange kind of freedom, caring less on purpose about the stuff that never mattered. Then there's what it does to your job. Living paycheck to paycheck, you're trapped, and your boss can smell it. You won't ask for the raise. What if they say no and just remember you asked? You won't push back on the dumb request. You can't take a Tuesday morning to interview somewhere better. You need them more than they need you, and that imbalance leaks into every conversation you have in that building. 20 grand quietly rewrites the whole thing. Suddenly, you've got walk-away money, the polite cousin of a phrase I'm not allowed to say. You could quit tomorrow and be fined for months. And here's the kicker. You almost never spend it. You don't have to. Just having it changes how you stand in the room. You ask for the raise, because the worst case is a no and a shrug. You push back, because the fear's gone. And people feel that. The one who isn't desperate gets the better projects, the respect, the money, which grows the cushion faster, which makes you even harder to push around. The loop feeds itself. So here's where most people faceplant, and I watch it happen constantly. They hit 20 grand, feel that wave of relief, and immediately light it on fire. New car, because they've been so good. A blowout trip, because they earned it. A down payment on a house the numbers don't support. Don't. That 20,000 is not a trophy for good behavior. It's the seed. Burn it now, and you didn't reward yourself. You fired the only employee you had who worked for free. And the thing people torch most? The average person pours more into cars over a lifetime than it would cost to just never have to work again. 6, 7, 800 a month between the payment and the insurance and the gas. For 40 years, that's 400 grand to move your body from one parking lot to another. It gets worse. Drive a new one off the lot, and it sheds about 1/5 of its value before you're even home. You're not just spending money, you're standing there watching it evaporate. That $30,000 car isn't $30,000. Leave that same 30 grand in the market at its long-run average, and it's about 140,000 in 20 years. So the real sticker price was 140 grand of your future, paid in monthly installments. Suddenly, the boring used Honda doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It feels like the smart move, because the guy in the shiny lease is usually the one lying awake over money, and the guy in the 10-year-old Civic is quietly getting rich and sleeping like a baby. Look, $20,000 is not rich. Nobody's throwing you a parade. It won't change your life on a random Tuesday, but it changes the operating system underneath your life. It's the line between reacting to whatever the month throws at you and getting to choose. Between a brain that's bracing and a brain that's building. The hardest 20 grand you'll ever save is the first one. After that, the hill's behind you, and it's all downhill. In the good way. So the move isn't to wait until you feel ready or rich or whatever you're telling yourself. It's to start the boring part now, today, while it's still hard. Future you is already living off this decision. Go make it for them.